Hi, welcome to another episode of the Just in Time Web Show. We're really excited to be with you today and share this great panel of experts. But first, I've got a few announcements. Now, for those of you who haven't been to our website recently, we have moved the Just in Time training link onto the QPI Florida site. So if you go to the homepage for www.qpiflorida.org, you will see a box that says enter the Just in Time training website there. So take a look at that. We have recently added some great videos that I'd love for you all to take a look at. We had a request come in, and remember, you can request training there too for scabies training. And I know you're going to itch when you watch this training, but it's excellent, and there's some wonderful pictures and information from a resident doctor on treating pediatric skin conditions. So take a look at that when you have a chance. Also, you know, our topic today is teens. Yes, teens. We all love them so much, and we're so excited to talk about them today. But, you know, our site has a lot of wonderful training videos on independent living and working with teenagers, and I encourage you to take a look at that topic. You know, back when the legislation added the extended foster care, we were charged with life skills training as caregivers, and so our program here at Just in Time Training has brought together some experts on some great life skills topics for both you and your teenagers to look at. Recently we did one that's on housing, and it really goes into housing possibilities for those youth that are getting ready to move on. So in addition to that, we've got money management and nutrition. So I just encourage you to take a look at those videos when you have a chance. Another feature that we have on the homepage on this QPI site is a Fostering Success Teen Recruitment Resources, and that's why we're bringing this topic to you today. This is a huge initiative that we've taken on at a statewide level, and we've posted a page on there, and I encourage you all to take a look at it. There is some notes from the initial meeting in March, as well as some videos. We've got a video of Secretary Mike Carroll's intro, as well as some great videos from some youth that were interviewed at the QPI National Conference. We've got some other tools and resources there, so you can see it on the screen and click on that, take a look at it, and I hope you can find some great resources there as well. So now I'd like to take a moment and introduce to you our panel of experts. And these guys are, when I say experts, they have really just taken on this challenge of fostering, adopting teens, and also working with us at a statewide level to recruit more foster parents for teens. You know, recruitment of quality foster parents is really where QPI began, and we've made great progress in Florida, but we've seen a real need for foster parents for teenagers. And we just really feel that the way to success, and I'm sure you guys have heard, as we all have heard, that the statistics are not where we want them to be for them graduating high school, moving on, you know, with them becoming homeless, teen pregnancies, all the things that continue to plague teenagers in the system. And I think that these experts that we have on our panel just really have rolled up their sleeves and taken on this challenge, and I want them to share their experiences with you. So I'm going to introduce them by name, and then I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about their stories. So we have Connie Going, Gloria West Lawson, and Chris and Alicia Johnson. And I will say that on this web page that I directed you guys to on our site, the Fostering Success, there is a video, and Chris was a speaker there, and really, I think I want to share some of that message with some of you that weren't in attendance and haven't seen that, because he really talks about the opportunities I think that we as foster parents have in working with these teens. So welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks for having us, and it's truly a joy to be here today. And we are blessed as a family, Alicia and I, together with our children, to have the opportunity to just make an impact in the lives of kids. And it's such a blessing and a joy and a privilege. We're thankful that God laid this on our hearts some 6 years ago and called us to this. We believe clearly that it was a calling, something that he wants us to do. And we started off in the whole fostering thing, not really planning to adopt, not really thinking about the future. It was just kind of, here's a need, let's try to meet this need the best that we can. And to be honest with you, when we first started fostering, when you go through your classes, they kind of ask you, what's your age group? What do you want to look? What are you willing to take? Who are you willing to take? Not willing to take? And from the beginning, we were like, no way will we be teens. We're going to do little ones.
Babies, matter of fact.
Yeah. And we have 3 biological daughters. At the time, our oldest daughter was about 11 or 12 years, probably 11 years old. And we had a lot of the same fears that other people have about teens. You know, I thought, I don't want to bring some teenage boy into my home when I've got my girls here, and I don't want to do anything that's going to put them in danger. I didn't want to bring a teenage girl into the home that was going to cause any issues with me, or those kind of things. And so I had all these fears, all these misconceptions. We did, and for the longest, we never even gave it a thought. But what changed for us is we met a young man that needed a family, and to be honest with you, he was a young man in our church. We knew him. We knew his foster parents. He'd been in foster care most of his life, and really had pretty much given up on adoption, given up on family, and had told his caseworker he didn't want to be adopted, didn't want to have a family. But the more that we kind of started investing in his life, we recognized and realized that his greatest need was a family. And his biggest fear was he didn't want a family because he didn't want to be removed from where he lived and his community and his friends and his church and those kind of things. And so we really just felt called, just to invite him into our home. And so we did so with fear and trepidation. It was like, what in the world is this like, bringing a teenager that we've never, we knew him on the surface, but living in our home's a whole different ballgame. And so, but through that experience, we realized, this is something that we can do, and this is something that it's as I said at the conference, it's a great opportunity. We talk a lot about the need for foster parents to take teens in and to foster teens or adopt teens, but truly, for us, it became a realization that this is a great opportunity to invest in the life of a young person. And so we were blessed to be able to bring Joey into our home. We adopted him just a few months later. He was 17. It was actually his adoption was finalized just a few months before he would have turned 18. And at that time, he would have aged out of the system because we didn't have the extended foster care. And so we're thrilled to say today he actually just came home last week from his second year of college, his first year away from home. The first year, we call it a year of college. He didn't get a whole lot of credits, but he learned the college experience. But this last year, he actually went away to college and lived on campus and just had a great year. Just came home from that, so we're excited for that. It didn't stop there. We ended up continuing to foster teens and became aware of some other teens that needed a home. And so since then, we've adopted 4 more teens in the last 2 years. 2 sibling groups, 2 brothers and sisters, 2 sets of brothers and sisters. And it's just been amazing to see the transition in their life once they got connected in a family. The first sibling group that we adopted had been in a group home for most of their life. And really the biggest adjustment, biggest thing we understood when they moved into our home was they had no concept of what family is about. They didn't understand how a family functions. And so it's been neat to see that transition in them, to be able to recognize that family is there for you, to encourage you, to help you, that it's having someone to hold you accountable at the same time, but also spur you on and encourage you to accomplish great things. And then the other sibling group that we adopted a year ago were actually spent most of their life on the streets, and were homeless a large part of their life. DCF was in and out of their life. Just had gone through some horrific things, and just to be able to, with them, I guess it's been really more of a story of healing. Yep. They came to us just completely broken. The older sibling really just kind of had in her mind, once she turned 18, she was going to take care of her brother, and they were just going to have to toughen it up and just do whatever they had to do to survive. And what's been great is to see them, once they've been again in a safe environment and in a family and in a home, to begin that healing process and to see the journey that they've been on. And when we first brought them into our home, it was strictly for fostering, and we told them, hey, we're here, we'll be your family forever. If you want to be adopted, that's great. If you don't want to be adopted, we'll just love on you, and you'll just always have a place to come back to. And so it was after several months of being in the home, they came to us and said, really, we want to be a part of the family. And we were thrilled with that and glad to do it. And so What's really neat is we've got the one son who's in college now, and then next week,
oh my goodness,
3 of the 4 that we've adopted in the last 2 years are graduating from high school next week, and so we are super excited. We're so proud of them because their academics were a mess when they came, but at the same time we recognize they're bright kids. They just they've been in and out of different schools, been in all kind of different situations. And you guys know the educational background usually is not very good, and so, but they have worked hard and they're ready. They're completely done with all their classes, all their work, and graduating next week. And then we have our biological daughters graduating next week also, and all 4 of them are going away to college together for their first year together.
That's awesome,
and so we're super proud. Super proud.
Well, you should be proud. Yeah. Chris, you brought up a point that I was hoping we could talk about a little bit to our viewers, and that was academic success. And I think that we look at success as parents, on the grades that our kids can make and, how well behaved they are. But we know that when we're taking in these children, that we may be starting with something a little bit different. So I wanted to know if you guys could share a little bit about, how to, I guess, see success in them and maybe view success differently as a foster or adoptive parent of these teenagers. So
I'll just say real quickly, and then you guys can share what your thoughts are. But I think one of the biggest things that you have to remember especially with teens that come into your home, a lot of these teens have, some of them are fresh into the system, they're brand new into the system, but most of them have been, at least the system has been involved in their life most of their life. And so one of the key things that you've got to remember academically as well as with behaviors and all these other things as well, is you've got to take them from where they are to where they need to be. It's a process and a journey. And so when they first come into your home, you've got to realize where they're coming from, what their life has been like, what their school life has been like, what their friendships have been like. And in most cases, none of those things are healthy. And so you can't just come in and expect them to perform and behave just as if the children that you brought up from birth or your children that have been in a good environment. You've got to recognize that they're coming with misunderstandings. They're coming with brokenness. They're coming with issues, and so you can't just expect them overnight to behave and act in this picturesque way. And so you've got to take these young people from where they are and then help them. That's our responsibility and goal as parents, is to help bring them to where they need to be. So you've got to remember that in this process.
So I really believe that it's about inspiring them and accepting them where they're at. My one son, Taylor, he was adopted at age 3. At age 5, actually, came into care at 3, and then was put back in the system about age 8, returned to foster care, where he was growing up in group homes and actually psychiatric facilities. So at 12, when the last match, and I as his social worker was looking for families, did not work, I took him into my home because he was attached to me, and the name of the game was attachment. And I accepted him for where he was at. And I think that was really important. And he really, at that point, the last thing on his mind was school, our grades. And it wasn't that he wasn't smart or brilliant. In fact, he had been tested gifted, just never been allowed to be in a gifted class because of his behaviors. My other son, who is 17, came into my home after his entire life in foster care. And in the last year before he came to me, had been in 4 different schools. 1 in Ohio, 3 here. He was mainstreamed very quickly in the middle of just a lot of placements, and he was done. He was absolutely done with school, and he said, I don't know what I want to do. And so we put him on an online homebound program where he could just kind of nest at the house and at his own comfortability do his work so he could kind of heal. I really think that meeting children where they're at, they will find their way, but you have to inspire them. And people don't understand. They think they should be, okay, they're going to come into school and they're going to go to class and they're going to want to do homework, and we do homework every day, and there's this rigidity in their expectations, which for teens, especially teens with oppositional defiance, which in my opinion most teens have, biological, teens in general, but our children even more, you set yourself up for huge power struggles. Whereas if you give them a reason, to believe that they'll go to college, because they don't believe. And they'll do the talk, but they don't really believe that they could play football or wrestle or box, or they've not had the opportunities, at least from my experience. as a social worker and as an adoptive mom, they just don't. Nobody, what they don't have is what we were given as children, hopefully, is that our parents said to us, you know, I love you, I believe in you, you can do anything you want. I believe you can be that football person or that baseball person or that scholar, that artist. And so they've been so busy surviving, that part of them has never been touched. So I think it's really important. Group homes and facilities, our children don't know how to live, at least mine didn't, to live in a family. So where we failed as a system truly is not allowing them to be in foster home families, learning how to have just interactions with family members is so difficult. And in fact, our second son brought him into our home on the weekends because he was friends with my first. I was still looking for a family for him, but he was in our home every weekend. And the reason I gave the system was we wanted to take him was because he needed to learn family. He didn't know how to go to a restaurant and order food. I mean, things, go to the movies, manage money. I mean, things that you just kind of know in a family, how it functions. And I really worried that any family that he was matched with wouldn't get that, wouldn't understand that, and they would expect things of him. In the group homes, they had certain levels that they needed to attain to be adopted or to be good enough to be adopted. And so they had reached these levels, but it's kind of like when you bring them home, they have to take off all those items of clothing, and they literally, and they have to just, you know, find out who they are underneath it all. But for the system, they've been performing for so long, and nobody really even knows them. Who are they? So that's the value for me as a mom, and the joy is finding those little moments where they can, do something that they feel they're successful at, even if it's small. Coming out for a family game or a family dinner for my one son, that is huge. We don't make him do that. We just kind of inspire him to. And pretty much soon he comes in at his own pace, then he goes back. Now he's out, he's taking boxing in the evenings. I mean, that's huge. School will come next year. He'll be back in school next year with his peers. But I don't
so we can measure the successes sometimes just with them being able to relate to us. It's not getting straight A's or,
No. They will now. And you know, I'm sure all of you know, in this works with our children. And so you can look at your children and where they're at now and where they came. My one son was failing everything. He's going in 10th grade. And he is on the ROTC by his own choice. He's in a special business program. He makes pretty good grades when he chooses to study. And he plays football and baseball at school. He wants to be something. And that's just amazing to me, because underneath it, he doubts himself every day.
That's great. That's a great way to look at things, I think, from that different level of success, and how to slowly, build attachment with them and build their trust, and hopefully, like you said, inspire them to want more for themselves and to feel like they're part of a family and do better in life. Gloria, I'd like her to introduce herself as well, and she has an interesting perspective I'd like her to share with you all on taking in the youth and maybe a way to get to know them up front.
Well, my name is Gloria West Lawson, and I have fostered 14 teenagers and adopted 2 teenagers. I currently have 2 teenagers in my house that are pre-adoption. And what I've learned over time is that a good match is really important. I've also founded an organization called Fostering Hope Florida, and one of our programs is called Fostering Connections. And Fostering Connections is about matching the right adult to the right child, starting off with a mentorship. And that's the way I've been bringing children into our home now. We do a little mentoring. We start to bring them on the weekends. We make sure that that child's a good match, because the match is really important. If you're going to foster a teen, it has to be something that you grow out of it and they grow out of it. If you have a teenager come to your home and you're avid boat people and the teenager is terrified of the water, that's probably not the best match for him or for you. So I think, the problem we have with so few homes taking teenagers is that we don't have the opportunity to make these good matches. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the matches fail, and unfortunately a lot of our teenagers are growing up in group homes and facilities. I recently spoke to a man who had aged out. He's 26 years old, aged out of the foster care system, and he said what he learned in the times that he was placed with family was exposure to the world, things that he wouldn't have gotten in a group home, and that is what his saving grace was. He did not get adopted, he did not end up with a permanent family, but he had that exposure to things like what he called like family reunions, outings, going to restaurants, all the kinds of things that don't really happen in a normal setting in a group home. It's even if they take them out to dinner, that's a staged ordeal, it's not a family ordeal. So I really like the idea of mentoring. I think we have to break down some barriers as far as letting the children connect more when they're older teens with adults in the community than we're allowing now. We want to protect them, but we also want to expose them to more things, and we can't do that if we don't expose them to more adults, more people living different lifestyles than the lifestyle that they grew up in. We have to give them some things to look forward to and things to step out of their comfort zone and to get into. Beyond that, I think that as far as recruiting, I think that the mistake that we make is sometimes we forget we have to adjust the demographics for recruiting for parents for teenagers. It's not always, the family that's already taking in younger children taking a teenager. I think we have to recruit people who are actually a good match for teenagers. And I think that demographic may look something like empty nesters, maybe single adults that have never had any children, maybe couples that have had career paths and really didn't, maybe didn't raise all the children they thought they might, or didn't raise any children. And I think that there's a buy-in for people like that, because there's so much meaning in investing in a child. You're basically, there's a legacy available to you. There's this opportunity to change a life. There's this opportunity to invest in someone, things that you've learned, your wisdom. And I think we can find people if we start seeking that out. And also, I think that we have to change the expectations of a foster parent for teens, because traditional foster parents are fostering, maybe a whole group of small children in their homes. We need people that'll step up and take one teenager. Yeah. One teenager. If we could find, several dozen people to take one teenager, we would deplete the population in the group homes by a large percentage, and we can just start from there. So if people have in their heart to invest in one child, to start with a mentorship, to start building a bond, seeing, how much impact they can have on that life, and then consider taking that child in their home, I think that's a better way to go. We'll have more success with the teenager's placement, and then we'll also, I think, be able to reach a part of the community that we're not reaching right now. People who would do this if they knew. We're not asking you to take 20 kids. We're asking you to start with one child. You can make a difference for one child.
Mm-hmm.
Gloria, I appreciate what you say about the mentorship too, because that's really how we brought our first teen into our home. With Joey, we just started investing in his life and spending time with him, and then we were able to build that relationship, and then we recognized, and it was a smooth transition because he was connected to our family, he was connected with us, and just moved right in. And so having that prior relationship was so important. You both spoke about the fact that we need matching, and we need, and in order to have that, we've got to have a greater population of people willing to take the kids in, and that's the tremendous thing that we're looking for and trying to do. I know that with the state initiative that we're working toward on recruiting foster parents, one of the work groups is actually working on putting together some materials to help in that matching process, and some kind of a system to bring in the likes and the interests and the hobbies of the foster parents together to match that with the teens. And we're even looking at providing a way for the teens to meet the parents ahead of time, foster parents to meet the teens, and maybe even how great would it be to be able to have the profiles of 5 or 6 different families to offer to each of these teens that are in foster care to say, what do you think about this family? How do you think you can match with this family? To be able to do that would just be it would totally transform the system, and it would just open up the door for so many of these young people to be able to experience family, to be able to have those opportunities to go forward.
Both my children will say, I'm sorry, Larry, that they chose me. That they'll say it didn't work there because I really didn't want it to work there.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Both of them will say that, and they'll say, I chose to be with
We've
you.
experienced the same thing.
Yeah. And because of that choice, because of that, them wanting to be there, it wasn't just, they had a vested interest to be successful and to become part of that family. So I really, really think that what we need too is realistic families, in the sense of when you have to hit the ground running. Do you really understand what a behavior is, really? And can you handle, I know that I have 2 biological daughters, they're 21 and 17, had, I brought my boys in thinking, okay, in my mind, they were mine. I had already claimed them, and so there's no going back, no matter what.
Right.
So I knew that no matter what happened in my home, anything I covered from top to bottom, that was not going to change. And that was really important, because as things got rough and dynamics came forward, I needed to hold on to that.
Yep.
That change was not an option, and that I was 110% committed. Because my one son had been Baker active multiple times as a child, and all he knew is he had to act that way, and they would send him for 3 days.
Right.
Yeah.
And he loved to have the police come and chase him around the block with a helicopter when he ran away. So when he came to my house and he'd go to run away, and I say, I'm not sending you anywhere.
Yeah.
He's this little tiny 11-year-old, 12-year-old, and I'd say, I'm not sending you anywhere, honey.
And I think we have to look at these extreme behaviors are a result of being in the system too long, to have that hopelessness of really growing up with the handicap of having no parents. And
Sure.
we wouldn't see these extreme behaviors if we could, get these children out of a group home and into a loving family, a good match family. And I think what you said about they chose you, they get no control over their lives when they're in foster care. Basically, somebody makes a phone call, puts them in a home with people they probably never met before. That's the way it's happening now. It can't happen that way for teenagers. They have to have some control over their lives. So with the mentorship, they actually get the opportunity to say, does this family work for me? Is this right for me? And they can make that first step. They can, say, yeah, I want to be there. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, when they have buy-in, like anything else you have buy-in in life, you buy into that this is the right family for you. You're going to want to make it work. You don't want to fail. The child doesn't want to fail, and the adults don't want to fail. Now you got something to work with.
Right, and I think especially as teenagers, you can't tell them you can't and you won't and this and that. It gets to the point where they have to have that internal motivation, and our goal is to teach them those things and why is this important. I always tell my son, I would love to have a dinner of chocolate brownies and M&Ms, but I don't, and why don't I? And I think it's helping lead those kids to that picture of success, believing in them and helping them to believe in themselves. Like, this is what success looks like for me down the road, and helping them to get there. And I know that we've all talked about how you guys have accomplished this with the teens in your home and how critical it is.
Well, I think too, creative parenting is named game. There's no book that is written, any one book that has it all in it. And other families are resources, but being very creative and kind of desensitizing some of the things. The food issue. How many times have our children been in homes or facilities where all the food is locked up? Okay? And I knew that from my son. I knew it was a trigger. It was an issue. But both my sons. So what I did when he first came is I said, what do you want? Let's fill a box. He painted the box. He slept with it for 3 months. Had this disgusting junk food in it. And then the box was off the bed. He went through a period where all he wanted was soda. I gave him soda until he was sick of soda. He's sick. He drinks water and milk now. Water and milk, that's it. I mean, he made those decisions, and he's very proud of himself. So I had to kind of look at it very differently and step away from my control of some of the things that were going to, because when you think about it, these children who grow up in group homes and facilities, there's good people that they meet. But I remember this incident with my son at the time. He would have been 10. And I used to see him every Monday, and I had a session with his therapist because he had no mother. I had a position in the community and in my position in my career that they let me go every Monday for 3 hours. He was a special kid to me. And he didn't have a mom, he had nobody to connect to, and I thought, well, he's got to learn to have people in his life. And so I went up there, and he was having a bad day, and he swears like a sailor, and he had cussed somebody out. And he was in a seclusion room, which, if you know facilities, seclusion rooms are padded rooms. And there was a chair in there, and he was taking the chair and he was throwing it against the wall over and over. And it's this little tiny thing, and his face is beet red, and he's so angry. And the therapist says, you can go in there. And I said, okay, I'll go in there. And I stuck my head. I said, you can't hit me, honey. He says, I would never hit you. And I come in and I sit down on the other chair, and he literally looked at me and he threw himself across the room into my lap, and he started to cry, and they had not seen him cry. And he cried for a good 20 minutes and big heart-wrenching sobs. And I left there that night, not in a mom position, as kind of a social worker position, and I thought, and it broke my heart, I thought, who touches these babies?
Yeah.
Who has held this child through these moments? In a foster home that is truly engaged and attached, they nurture. You nurture those children. He had not been nurtured for over 8 years. And I knew, so what were we creating in that child for his future? And how much would it take for me to be that? I began to plant the seeds of what, I mean, he had another family at that time that we were working with, but he needed a family. And that was the bottom line. We just don't always know who it's going to be. It might be us.
Yeah, I think we've experienced, even, you're talking about the whole nurturing thing. I remember times with, 16, 17-year-olds that come into our home, and I'm like, in our house, it's a rule, before you go to bed, mom and dad get a hug. I don't care who you are, mom and dad get a hug.
And at one point, it became this big game. Because there's one particular guy, young man, who is just, he has great opportunity. In front of him, he has some great opportunities, but he's going to have to learn some lessons before he can get there. And I remember when he came into our house, you get that phone call. Oh, yeah, you get that phone call from placement. Here is everything that's wrong with him, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it was true. It was all true. He's just
probably on the...
Right, they were probably, being kind a little bit just to get him in our home. He'll do great in the Johnson's home if we can just get him. Can you just handle him for a weekend? And we had already known this young gentleman, and we were like, okay, we'll give you the weekend, and let's just see how it goes. And he was tough, macho guy. I'm not made for a family.
Literally laid on the bed crying to me and said that to me.
You just need to let me go because I'm not made for a family. And I remember when he was with us for about 2 weeks, and then he just went. And I remember talking about this. We're going to show you what the love of a family is like. And it began to be a game with him. Okay, now come give Miss Leisha a hug, because if you don't give me a hug, I'm going to chase you down, and one way or the other, I'm going to get my hug from you. And no joke, 6'2", big guy, and I'm like, okay, come get me. No, I'm not going to give you a hug. I'm not going to. And so I would get up out of my chair. I said, okay, you better watch out, because I'm coming for you. And he would go run into his room, and I'd go running after him, and he would just lay on his bed all curled up, and I would just tackle him. And just love him and give him a kiss on the cheek. I said, babe, I told you I was going to get that hug from you one way or the other, and I want you to know you're loved. Did he make it in our home? No. But did he leave knowing that he was loved and he was cared for? Absolutely. And did our journey with that young man stop when he left our home? No, because these teenagers, it's just not them coming into your home. It's that whole network of workers that surround him, and there is an exhausted little case manager who is just at her wits' end, in tears. I can't do this. You know what? She needs love, and she needs encouragement too, because they just need that love. And so when this young man left our home, we had built such a relationship with the case manager that when the Lord would just put that young gentleman on my mind, I knew a couple of weeks had go, and that was his trigger. He would last in a placement for about 2 weeks, and then he would erupt and do his running away and the whole, here comes the police officers to chase him down. And so I would know what his triggers were coming, and so I would do pulse checkers with the case managers. How are you? How's our guy doing? He's getting ready to blow, Alicia. I don't know what we're going to do next, Alicia. I said, okay, when you lay eyes on him again, when you talk to him again, just let him know that the Johnsons love him and that we're praying for him. Yeah, somewhere in his mind, 10 years from now, I want him to remember, I want him to hear those words, the Johnsons love me. I want him to know what unconditional love is all about. And I think that is really, because we have to be honest with ourselves. We have some difficult teenagers. Okay, we can't escape that. We do. And I think in training and asking our foster parents to step up to the plate, We have to have those conversations with them. What are you going to do when that child smokes that joint, when he runs, when he does this, when he says, I'm going to kill your dog, or all this? What is your response going to be? How are you going to handle it? It's not. You're not going to pick up the phone and say, come get this kid, because that's not what's in the best interest for that child. So how are you going to handle it?
Sometimes aren't they setting it up for that?
Yeah.
Because they're
You're exactly right.
Well, and they're so afraid. It's like they think it's going to happen anyway. So before I get self-sabotage, before I get too close, because I like it, I kind of like it here, and I kind of like these people. So let me screw it up now before I'm invested deeper, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. And then they're in control. They get to
Right.
make
They're
their
in
choice.
control.
You know, I didn't want to stay there anymore. And,
And they'll say that even if they're really deep down, they did.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that there's a terminology that we use, and then I'm trying to stop myself from using it. I'm trying to encourage other people to stop saying it. And we say, he disrupted his placement. She disrupted her placement. You know, first the child is in the system is not having their needs met for so long, and then when the placement fails, we say the child disrupted their placement. No, we failed to find the right placement for that child at the right time or in time. So we have to stop, victim blaming. We have to start saying, we have to adjust. Yes, this is a difficult child, and the Johnsons are miracle workers. They can have a bunch of kids in their house, but I really think that there's people that can take one child, and honestly, if that one child has all of your love and attention, you could really do a miracle. And
sometimes that's what they
give that
do too.
Unconditional love, and they're not borrowing it, they're not sharing it with anyone else, and it can make all the difference. And I know sometimes I take the kids that are in my home, and I go to group homes to get another child out. As soon as they get there, they become a pack. I don't even recognize them anymore. They act differently in that type of setting. Whereas at home, they don't act like that. So I think that sometimes, they're not really as difficult as we think they are in the right circumstance. So if we put them with maybe just one adult or a couple, I think that they'll have more success because they have more time invested, and there's no
get them
sharing
away from some of those negative influences as well.
Right. Believe me, if you're giving a child, okay, now next weekend we're going on a cruise, and next weekend we're going to go to the park together, and if there's always something on their agenda, they're not falling back to that old crowd, because that crowd is boring to them. Sitting around the corner, smoking pot or cigarettes or whatever is probably not as appealing when they have an exciting life with their family.
Right.
I think one of the things that Alicia touched on too, I think that is important that you have to remember is this is not an overnight thing. You got to be in it for the long haul, and you've got to be investing. This young man that she mentioned, like she said, he may right now look like a mess, and his life may be in shambles right now, and he's aged out now, and he's doing his own thing. But hopefully, we've instilled something in him, and others have instilled something in him, to where that down the road, that light one day may go off, and he may remember those things that he's learned and taught. And so we can't just judge success based on just the short term for them as well. It's like, okay, he only lasted this amount of time, so we failed him. He failed. You have to see the big picture and trust that our desire and our goal is to prepare these young people for life. It's not just to get through the next day. It's not just to get, our
they
goal
found
is
their
to get
forever
them.
family.
And the job doesn't end at 18.
Right,
And we have to be
You gotta
aware
continue to be there.
that the kids that we're having in our homes that are coming out of foster care, who've been in the foster care system for a long time, 18 means nothing.
Right.
That they're younger than the 18-year-olds. And honestly, I haven't taken one child in my house that hasn't been a huge challenge. I haven't had one child in my house that hasn't said, thank you for everything you do. So they're very much like our biological children.
Right.
And we just have to accept that. They're not going to be any more grateful and any more cooperative, and they're going to come with issues that are related to their stay in foster care and the fact that they've been let down by so many adults in their life. But that's where the opportunity is for people who want to take these children in. This is a chance to prepare this child for life, to make them a statistic for the good, not for another child that's in jail, another child that is homeless. We can make something. It may take time. It's going to be probably beyond their 18th birthday, but at some point we're going to see the light, and at some point they're going to be contributing members of society. Probably helping other children that were in their circumstances.
I think that's so important to know where they come from and to know their history. and to have all their connectors that you, as the adoptive family, foster family, have to help find, whether that be birth family, siblings. I fully believe in that because they are missing so many pieces that we have to really help them make sense of it all. And I think they come to us with like puzzle pieces that have just been taken out, and we go, okay, have a great life. And I think part of our job, because at this point the system does not do this, is to help recreate a lot of that, those pieces, so that they feel whole again, so that they can healthfully attach to us.
And that's what makes us human, is that connectedness to other humans. And if you have, I know the two boys that we adopted, when we were going through the adoption process, they had already been previously adopted and returned to the foster care system, and they had no idea who their biological mother was, who their biological father was. They didn't know where they were born. They didn't know any of their medical history, and we pieced that together for them. And you know, some of it was painful for them because they were kind of hoping that they were millionaires and that their parents were going to service. And
this was all a mistake.
But as painful as it was, at least it gave them a beginning. And,
right.
and we pieced together some of the pieces of where they'd been and the people that they'd encountered in their lives, and it made it real for them so that they knew what was real, what they were thinking. Was I really with these people? Do I remember this? And I think that's part of the thing you get to do if you have a teenager, is help them piece together their lives.
I agree. It's very inspiring. Well, what would you guys say? You know, a lot of our viewers might be saying, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this, if I'm the right person. What would you share with them? Because I think that we've probably all felt this way at some time. What would you tell them?
Well, I know for myself, I felt I wasn't good enough. I could work in the field, I could run post-adoption support groups, I could be the adoption guru of the century, but I did not feel that even in my own parenting I was good enough with my biological daughters. I was a divorced mom after 18 years, and I had my struggles. My girls were what I called high maintenance. So, but really my faith came into play, and these children were put on my heart, and I wasn't going to argue or shake. They were my children. And so I had to make it work. Failure is not an option. And what that caused me to do, and what I think people need to do, is to look at how far are you willing to go? How flexible are you? And flexibility is key. How creative are you? This mission, is this a mission for you in your life? Because it really sort of has to be, whatever you believe in, you have to believe that these children are meant to be with you and that you are helping them, and that it's a mission, and that you can do it. Failure is not an option. It's just not, because you are failing them. And you're not going to be perfect, ever. There are going to be days where you go, oh my God, I got this right. And there's going to be days where you shut the door to your room and you sit there. And for me, it's like I've been a ping pong ball all evening. And being a single mom, that tends to be the issue. And you shut the door and you cry and you think, oh my God, I'm horrible at this. And then you pull it together and you find your strength and your power and your faith, and you know that failure's not an option.
I know for me, I was called to do this by a teenager, and basically I had already started fostering hope, already seeing a need for siblings to be together in foster care. And then I went to a Heart Gallery function, and a teenager got up on stage and he said, I play football and I would love to have a family in the stands cheering for me. And he hit me where it hurts. And I just thought, here I am. I'm talking the talk every day. You foster kids, do this. And I didn't even consider bringing children into my own home, because I thought, I already did the baby thing. I'll have twin biological sons. I didn't want to do babies. I had already been that route. And when he said that, I thought, this is the perfect age for us. You know, we have a large enough home. We have empty nests. We have active lifestyles where a child could get home and get off the bus and get in. A teenager can get themselves home off the bus. They could run an errand for you. They can drive. I mean, there's really a lot of advantages to having a teenager. And so that young man just spoke to me that day, and I had never considered myself as a foster or adoptive parent. So I'm grateful to him, because it's been a blessing.
Mm-hmm. You know, don't we have those same feelings though about our biological children?
Absolutely.
I mean, even as with my biological children, there's days that I feel like a complete failure as a dad, and I've let my kids down, and so it's really no different in that regard. You know, as far as the truth of the matter is, none of us are perfect. There is no perfect parent. There's only one, our Heavenly Father, and He's not here, and so He's called us to be His extension. And so, you've got to rely. We're the same way. Our faith is definitely what gives us the strength to do it, and trusting that if God calls us to this, He will empower us and He will give us the ability to do it. And so you've got to rest in that. We have people a lot of times that make comments about our family, and you're just incredible. And you guys know.
That's embarrassing.
It is.
It's like,
I know.
You should come to our house
Exactly.
and see what
You
it's
should
really like.
see me on a bad day. You should see me when I'm hollering at my kids. Yes, I holler at my kids.
Absolutely. You have good days, you have bad days, and you just roll with that and you learn. And there's a lot of times that you have to suck it up and say, you have to sit your kids down and say, will you please forgive me?
Right.
You got to teach them. They need to see you being real. They
That's
don't need
right.
a perfect parent because life is not perfect.
Exactly.
And they're not going to be in a perfect environment at any point in their life. And so they need to see something that's real and genuine. They need to see us blow it and then be willing to own it when we blow it. We always want them to own it. We've got to be willing to own it too, and sometimes ask their forgiveness. We're just an ordinary family. We're no different from anybody else. We're an ordinary family. We serve an extraordinary God who has called us to do some great things, and we're excited and thankful that He would use us. And the truth matter is, He'll use you too. He'll use anyone that's willing to just kind of be an instrument that can be used to help. You're gifted. You're qualified. You're able to do this if you just
And the opportunity is great.
take advantage of it. Yeah, absolutely. And it'll change you.
Yeah, well.
I'm a better parent today because I foster teens.
I'm a better
Because I've had to.
person. I'm better in every
Yep.
way.
Yep.
I feel like, they say that, oh, you save those children. I know.
No.
You know what? They saved
That's
me.
Absolutely.
right.
And some people don't get that, but I live that every day. In my life, my mother, who's in her 80s, will say, because they don't necessarily understand why I've taken this on. And
Isn't it time for you to relax in life?
you need to find a rich man. You go on a cruise. I'm like, I'm good. And the thing is that at this time in my life, this is my commitment. I'm an older. I'm not a spring chicken, but the thing is that my rewards are. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And after a crazy day, I'm telling them I'm so happy today. They're like, "What is wrong with you?" But I'm really blessed.
Yeah.
Well, we know that foster parents are the best recruiting tool for other foster parents. And I think that what foster parents out there need to think about is maybe not the people that you've been asking, that you've been calling on, but maybe people who maybe their life would be changed in a good way if they consider taking a teenager and have those conversations with people maybe you weren't thinking about before. Kind of think outside the box, because that's where we're going to find people. And additionally, I would suggest foster parents make sure people know how much you enjoy what you do, because sometimes we get a little exasperated.
Yeah.
And
We share all the negative.
We need to have a smile on our face, because we need to delight in what we do, and people need to see that joy on our faces, because it really is it's good work, it's God's work, it's important work, and the payoff is incredible. I mean, you can't have more meaning in your life than investing in a child, even if it's just the 2 weeks. That he's taking that with him wherever he goes, and it's going to make a difference. And so just know that your impact is that great. And where else in life do you have that kind of impact to change a life and to change future generations?
Absolutely. Break the cycle.
That's one of our big things. We're breaking cycles because a lot of these kids, let's face it, they're in the system because they're parents from the system, because they're parents from the system, or something. There's these cycles of behavior that are happening over and over, and to be able to step in and have the opportunity to help bring healing so that cycle can be broken, so that now you're preparing them to one day be the right kind of parent, to one day have a family, to one day enjoy life and be productive in society and make a difference in the community. It's an awesome privilege to get to do that, to have a part in that.
And I would just say, I know that I think foster parents are where it starts. I think relationships are so important, but know that more than likely in teens, you will be faced with adoption, because ultimately the children that come to your home, they may choose not for whatever reason, but ultimately I think the greatest healing comes through a permanent commitment. And I think I think that they may say they don't want it, but in reality, who doesn't want somebody, when you are really healing inside with your losses, that they don't feel that they're worthy for someone to love them, because that's what a lot of it is.
Yeah.
I'm not lovable enough.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm not cut out for it.
I think that's another positive too, because a lot of people you approach with foster care, they say, "Oh, I couldn't give the kids back." Well, honestly, with teenagers,
You don't have to.
I've had
You can't get that to
two
leave.
that actually went back to their to biological relatives, anyways, and those two are still completely involved in our lives. Their whole family comes to our house for holidays now, so they didn't
Just
really
get
go
as attacked
away.
as you want to.
Yeah, you can get as attacked as you want. There's not a lot of family
Yeah.
screaming to have them back, you know, sadly.
It is sad.
But, you know, and it makes me think about just later on in their life when they need a parent, when that young lady ends up becoming a mom herself. Who did you go to when you had your first biological children? You had a mom to go to, you know, to help you and, you know, to know that you can be that person, or when they go away to college, that they have a home. You know, all the other kids are going back home on spring break or Christmas holidays or anything, you know, that they have a home, a family to go back to.
I think about it like in relationships with your partner, is that ultimate commitment is you can live with each other for a long time. But when you make that ultimate commitment to legalize that union, it says I'm willing to step up a little bit further. And so people downplay that, but I think for our children it's saying I value you enough to make you legally and permanently part of my family. And my sons will say, well, what if we do something bad? Like, and they'll come up with all these scenarios, like, what if they give these horrible scenarios? I said, well, then I'll visit you in the penitentiary, and I'll be disappointed and sad, but I'm going to be there.
Right.
Absolutely.
And they go, oh, I said, but that's not what you want, right? And they're like, no. But I just think we have to, it's that ultimate unconditional love that they've not experienced in ultimate commitment.
Well, guys, this has been a great discussion, as I knew it would be, with so many passionate, wonderful people here. And I hope that we have inspired you to, I don't know if this is right for you, and we only want people who are ready to roll up their sleeves and say, that's what I want to do for a teen. I want to be that difference. I want to help make a difference. And we know not everybody is called to do this, you know, and there are a lot of other needs, and we are thankful to every one of you, those that take the littlest babies out of the hospital and those who take, you know, big sibling groups of school-age children. We need every single one of you, but we just hope that to those of you who heard our hearts for teens, that if you have any desire and you want to be a part of this, that you would be inspired to step up to that calling, or also to think about those other people in your life, whether it be family members or people in your church or in your kids' sporting places, and you know, just anybody that you come into contact with that you think, you know what, they could probably do this. And putting aside all those things that we're not good enough, because you know what? For that child, we are good enough, you know, and we will grow together. So I just encourage you. You know, one of the things, and I know Chris kind of stole my thunder a little with some of the things we're doing at a statewide level, and he talked about the matching, which I just love this piece, because it is, like Gloria had mentioned too, so critical, that matching and finding the right family, and the children being able to express what they're looking for in a family, what are their interests. But one of the other things that we're doing at a statewide level, which I think is so exciting, is they've put together a band, for those of you who haven't heard about it, called the Next Gen Band, and it is a band of foster and adoptive youth, teenagers, and they're going around across the state of Florida. So watch for them at your local CBC, and if you can encourage them, support them, bring anybody out that you know to one of their events, it would be so greatly appreciated, because it is truly an awareness event. Because I don't know how people can walk away without seeing and being inspired by those young people, because they stand up there, of course, entertain us with their wonderful music, but tell their stories. And I'm sure all of your children could tell amazing stories. And how could you not say, hey, I want to do that. I want to help one of them, because those are awesome kids, you know? Isn't it true? You look at them on these panels and you think, so thank you for everybody who's watching. And just to wrap up our session, I'd like to remind you that we're here. This show is here to bring news and information to you and training on topics that are important. So please send us your feedback and your comments. We have an email address at qpiflorida@usf.edu. We also have a Facebook page. Just type in the search just-in-time training and comment there, and just share your requests with us, because we're here for you. And we just thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon on our next episode of the Just-in-Time Web Show.